Welcome to a super special edition of the show with no name. I'm Bob Going here with Gavin Murdoch. We don't know if Jim got the message or not because I just scheduled this last night sometime. I don't know what time it was here. It was I don't know. We were in Seattle.
Close time.
I think I emailed you from the Seattle airport where we were coming home from Coeur d'Alene. We had to go west to come east to get home. It was a long night. We got on the, oh cripes, let's see. We got on the plane about 6:30 in Spokane, which is only about 30 miles from Coeur d'Alene. Boy, what a beautiful area. We'll get into that. Then we had to fly to Seattle where we had a 3.5-hour layover. Now it happens, we didn't even realize it until that day that the Red Sox were playing the Mariners last night, and they're almost theoretically time to get there. But the area, we flew over the ballpark, and I could see that it was a substantial distance from the airport. So we didn't try it, but we could have. But that game was going so fast; it was already in the 6th inning when we got there to the airport. I mean, we probably would have gotten there just in the nick of time for the end. It's one of those good news, bad news things, of course. I don't know if you saw the results of the game.
No, didn't hear.
Seattle pitcher was just fabulous. It mowed everybody down, went the distance. It was a 1-0 game. Sox rally in the top of the 9th. Big Papi gets a hit, and then I think Saltalamacchia got a hit or walked. I'm not sure which, but then he ended up with first and second. Put in a pinch runner for Big Papi, and boom, pitcher bears down. Gets his second and third out, and go to the bottom of the 9th. And this is the good news part. The good news part. The bad news is the Sox lose the game.
Okay.
The good news is my granddaughter's second cousin, twice removed, Casper Wells, son of Cappy Wells from here, and and all those other Wells that we went to school with. Mike was in your class,
yes,
right?
He was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
And Rosemary and Linda were not too far behind.
Right.
Linda and Rosemary.
Yeah, Linda's right behind us, and Rosemary's here behind her.
So we knew them all. Anyway, gets a double. I think with one out. They deliberately walk the guy, and then and somebody else hits a single that is iffy for not going to run in. Wells goes all out. I mean, he just digs in, around third base. He goes flying for home, swings around the catcher, and makes a flying leap to home plate to beat the tag. So it was fabulous. And on top of that, he had made 2 really good catches in the outfield before that, one of which was spectacular, where he goes flying, catches the ball, rolls into the wall, smashes into it, knocks himself silly, but comes up with the ball. So he had a heck of a night.
Since he came back up, because he got sent down for a while, because he wasn't doing very well. He's hit over 300. He's picked up 7 or 8 RBI.
I didn't realize they'd sent him down for
Yeah.
It couldn't have been for too long.
No, he's down for a couple of weeks. But he was struggling. He was bad.
Yeah, he's been sporadic. Of course, he's an equal opportunity guy. He destroyed the Yankees in that one game. But it's nice to see the local boy doing good, especially when he's a relative of my granddaughter's. And the Wells are all my friends, so I always wish him well. But I wish, if he's going to hit 400 or something, do it against some other team. All right. I told him this before, and he's. I explained to him about a year ago the importance of faking an injury every once in a while and taking a couple days off.
And of course, while you were gone, the Red Sox made a big trade.
Yeah. That hit while we were out there.
Could maybe seen that coming because he had a little run-in with the manager early on.
Well, it's more than that. This Middlebrooks has been you can't take that guy out of the game. He's been fabulous. There's only been, I forget what the statistic was. There's only been like 2 hitters that have equaled the start he's had as a rookie in the last 40 or 50 years. The most recent of whom was Albert Pujols. And if you're already being linked with that name, and he's just delivering day in and day out.
Yeah.
He hasn't hit a slump yet. So where are you going to put Youkilis? He's too good a ball player. He's got too much of a history to sit out and play every third game. I mean, that's ridiculous. So they had to do it, I guess. I mean, I don't see any other alternative, but it was a terrible thing to have to happen.
So the only one left from the 204 team now is Big Papi.
Big Papi. He's
Everybody
it.
else is gone.
Every single one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single one. And Youkilis, of course, was signed by the previous ownership, not the current guys.
Right.
So what they got now is a pretty homegrown lot, or they're responsible for him anyway. Of course, Theo made, who I used to agree with everybody was a genius, wasn't really that big a genius. He made some play, an awful lot of really expensive plays that didn't pan out.
No. But when you win, people can overlook some of your shortcomings.
Yeah, you can overlook that. But anyway, that American League East is that's a hell of a division. Everybody's over 500. They take turns moving up and down the ladder. Any single one of those teams could go on a tear and win.
And you look at Tampa Bay. Longoria hasn't been playing; he's been hurt, so he's been missing. The Sox started out.
Well, the Sox have had
terribly.
14 different guys play in the outfield this year.
They started out poorly, and they've come on. Yankees
Since April 21st. Since April 21st, when they blew the 9-0 lead against the Yankees, that's considered one of those quintessential moments in a season. They blew the 9-0 lead against the Yankees, and since that time, they've got the second best record in baseball. It's hard to believe, but they do. And who's got the best?
Yankees.
The Yankees, because the Yankees have been on a tear.
It's funny with the Yankees too, because they have just kind of been working their way up. All of a sudden they got a big winning streak going. The same thing is true with the Angels. They started out on the bottom, and they've just been coming back. And all of a sudden they got a terrific record, and they're fighting Texas again. People, sports writers and newscasters particularly, they like to write people out. That's it. Their season's over.
All done. Right.
Well, guess what? That's why they play 162 games.
That's right.
And over that time, you're going to have peaks and valleys. It's more apparent oftentimes when you have your valley right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you come around. A long time to make up that ground.
Long time to make it up.
Yeah.
Long, hard road too. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take it it's been hot here in my absence, huh?
Yeah. It's been.
It's
hot. We had some sunny days that were cool, like humid yesterday, but today it's heating up and it's going to heat up right to the fourth.
It is steamy today.
Yeah.
It was steamy when we got off the plane at Cleveland at I don't know, 6 something their time.
How many stops did you have to make?
Oh, it was the way back was rough. Yeah, we had to fly from Spokane to Seattle, the 3.5 hour layover, then Seattle to Cleveland. Now the Cleveland to Albany plane was already loading when our plane arrives in Cleveland, and it was a substantial distance from where we were. So,
running through airports.
So we flew through the airport and managed to get the plane back, but that was a long haul. I mean, we wanted to take the red eye because we had Jamie with us and we weren't going to see him for a while, so we wanted to make sure we spent as much time with him as we could. So we did, and he hopped in his car and was camping out, and we heard from him while we were still in Seattle. He was already camping in Butte, Montana, which has got to be like 5 hours away from where we left him.
Wow.
Pretty country out there, guy.
Yeah. It is. The West is.
Wanted to stop and see Dick List. Got real close. Tim Blanchfield was moving out there this week, and he was due to arrive last night to Hamilton, Montana, which is like next door to where List is, about 10 miles apart. And we just couldn't make it. I got as close as Missoula, which was about 45 minutes, Missoula, Montana. But then we decided we took a vote, and there was one vote for List and the rest for Glacier National Park. So we went up there on a rainy day. It was really raining when we got there, but we signed up for the 2:30 in the afternoon bus tour, and that worked out. I mean, it was not like a clear, beautiful day by any means. It rained almost the whole way up, but it was a light rain. It wasn't too bad. These people have to be out of their minds who conceived the thought of building a road over Logan Pass in the Glacier National Park. It links the east and west sides of the park.
Rather tough road, huh?
It's a beautiful road. It's an absolutely terrifying road. It's only been open about a week because they finally got the snowplows were finally able to get it through, and it drifts so heavily in the winter up there, and they don't call it Glacier National Park for nothing. I said, Jamie, didn't you suspect it was going to be a little cold here by the name of Glacier? I figured it was just a name. He said. It was 36 at the top of the pass, 36 degrees, and the gusts of wind were 40, 50 miles an hour. And then the fog kept rolling in. There was one point, Mary's coming down the stairs from the visitor center, and we're in the parking lot next to the visitor center. Both she and the visitor center disappeared. They just disappeared. It was like that game in Chicago, that football game that time, remember? But this road, it gets damaged. They say they're rebuilding it all the time. They're constantly rebuilding this road and making it safer, etc. Well, let me tell you, when you're sitting on the hillside of the bus and you can't even see the rail that is about as high as this table, right? Because it's out of your sight. It's just freaking thousands of feet straight down on this narrow road, and every once in a while it just, there's no shoulder to speak of, and the gravel just is kind of, and you can see where the road has been washed away and rebuilt, and that gives you lots of confidence. I mean, there are places where the water just runs over the road. The waterfalls everywhere, under the road, over the road, in the road. But a spectacularly laid out road. It has only one switchback in it. You go long way up, then you switch back, and then it comes around this huge bowl, and it just swings around, getting higher and higher and higher the whole time. It climbs about, I think the elevation change is about 4,600 feet.
A mile.
And we didn't go down the other side. This was only a 3.5 hour tour, so we only got to the top of the pass and turned around and came back. But it was great. The guy, told us all about the park and what we're seeing, and we stopped to see the flora and fauna. And, a lot of the creeks were rushing because of all the rain and the glacial melt, of course. So beautiful spot.
We forget how huge our country is.
Oh my God!
What a diversity of landscape we have here. There's virtually nothing that isn't here in the United States.
And that's not much more than a couple of days drive away if you really put the pedal to the metal. They don't call it the Big Sky Country for nothing. Montana has the most spectacular scenery I think I've ever seen, and I've been to Switzerland. It was a lot like Switzerland, actually. They have these broad, flat valleys where the cattle graze, and we didn't see any buffalo, but we went by some buffalo territory. They probably hide out in the rain. and then the mountains just go straight up around it, and you've got these. I-90 has a very climby pass to get from Coeur d'Alene to Missoula. I think it's called Lookout Pass, Lewis and Clark country.
Yeah.
It is. But we came back almost undulating for the northern part of Montana and Idaho, because even though these mountains are huge, the river valleys are flowing toward the Columbia.
Right, they flow west.
Yeah, so it really opens right up. So you're never. It's nothing like that Logan Pass. Well, Logan Pass sits on the Continental Divide, and I think it can split in 3 directions from there. One direction, of course, goes to the Pacific. One goes to the Gulf of Mexico through the Missouri, Mississippi, and the third goes into Hudson Bay.
Flows north.
Yeah.
Flows uphill.
It's hard to figure how that works.
Yeah. It's incomprehensible what it must have been like when the first.
Well, that's what I was thinking every step of the way.
When is this going to end, and what else am I going to try to see here?
Right.
Because it was heavily forested up there. You say the broad sweeping plains. It had to be awe-inspiring.
Absolutely, and of course you got you had the herds of buffalo that would run by for days, before the line finished. Yeah, and I mean I'm right there where Lewis and Clark were, and I said this had to knock their socks off, because there was nothing like this in the East.
No,
at all.
And what was it like? Why would you want to go to? I mean, it was tough going here. They didn't even have that little dirt road you were on.
No, and they didn't even know where they were going.
No.
They didn't know how to get over the Rockies and the Coeur d'Alenes and all that.
Not at all.
It was trial and error. But there are, wow, it's spectacular. Coeur d'Alene is actually. Coeur d'Alene is about 46,000 people, which is a lot for that area, but it's not far from Spokane. As I say, it's about 30 miles, like us to Albany. But it's all flat. It's all in, I think it's really the Spokane River Valley, or variations of it. So you're pretty flat going from Coeur d'Alene to Spokane and the airport. And again, surrounded by mountains, and some of them, snow-capped. We did shoot up to British Columbia just to say we were there. I didn't have my passport with me, so I just kind of, I stood at the boundary marker, and when nobody was looking, I would put a foot up, 1 foot over, and one foot in, 1 foot out. Probably be on my record. But boy, it was great. It was great, and of course Jamie did his Ironman, and but if I didn't mention this earlier, I've been home exactly about an hour at this point when we're doing this show. So if I'm a little tired, it's that and the little incident at the indoor water park yesterday. It's a nice thing.
Where was the water park?
Well, it was kind of along the lines of the one the Great Escape has across the street, the indoor park.
Yeah.
So they had like 1, 2, maybe 3 tubes, 3 adult-sized tubes, and a nice kiddie area. They had a wave pool, and, indoor-outdoor hot tub, which was nice. It wasn't too hot, so you could kind of glide outdoors where it was a beautiful day, and just hang out there for a while. But the one tube is one like I've never seen before. It used to be in the grocery stores and such. They'd have these things where you would put your loose change in to donate to some cause, and you put your change in up here, and then it comes down, and it rolls around and around and around and around.
Yeah,
wow. This is an ordinary, fairly normal loop-de-loop tube thing, and all of a sudden, it dumps into this same type deal.
It's a pool.
It's not even a pool. It's just the big funnel. It's a big funnel, and you come in and you go 3, 4, 5 times around. It gets slower, and then you get sucked into the drain, and backwards. It sucks you into the drain backwards. So now all of a sudden, I'm in the lead, going down backwards, and as soon as we hit the water, I go down and smack my head in the back of my head.
Didn't see that one coming.
Didn't see it coming at all, and it came so fast on top of that, because apparently it's just a short distance down the drain. And meanwhile the
next guy's coming right at you.
The family was waiting. I was riding that one with Jamie. The family's waiting for us at the bottom in the pickup pool, and there's a lifeguard there, and they're all coming over. Dad, you all right? You all right? The lifeguard is just going to... Never said a word. Never said a word. Just another cracked skull.
It's not his fault if you don't see it.
Jeez.
As long as you had a good time and the family enjoyed it and he did well.
Yeah, it was, when that race starts with a 2.5 mile swim. The water temperature was 59 degrees.
It's cool.
That's cool. The air temperature was also 59 degrees.
That's cold.
Well, especially for watching it. Yeah. It's funny. It's exhausting watching these guys. Jamie did great, just great on the swim, as he did last year in Switzerland. And he's got a new bike, and he's got an extra year of practicing. So he shaved nearly an hour off his time from last year. That notwithstanding the blisters on his big toes that were the size of the toes when he finished. Anyway, the second thing is the 112-mile bike ride. And we had scouted out part of the major part of the route the day we got there, and it's on a nice wide open highway. They shut the highway down. It's a 4-lane highway, and I think the 2 lanes were devoted just to the race. It has these long, on each leg there's 2 long ups and long downs. I mean, you just keep climbing for 4 or 5 miles before you go down again, and fairly steeply for 4 or 5 miles. So that's one, and then you got to come back that way. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you got to do it again. So it's eight long ups in the course of this ride. So it finishes up. Basically everything finishes up in the same neighborhood. So it basically finishes up where it started, which was where the swim ended. And I had the camera going, and I catch Jamie coming around to the finish line of the bike and grab the camera, and I run like hell to find Louisa so she can snap a picture of him crossing the finish line. She had already gotten that, and together the two of us ran over to where he would come out to shoot for the beginning of the marathon, because they end up running the 26 whatever mile marathon to finish the race. It damn near killed me. I ran like 200 yards maybe. I said, boy, this is tiring. And then the kid comes out and runs 26 something miles, and he was just euphoric coming over the finish line. This time it had like 7 blocks through downtown before you hit the finish line. So everybody's lined up. You turn the corner and you got a 7-block straight view of the finish, and he's coming down the street, and And then he just decides to get the crowd, and the crowd is rooting for him, and he's slapping hands and everything. And I don't know if you caught Bob's picture of him. Just before he crossed the finish line, he's got his hands over his head. Victory.
Ah, to be young again.
Oh my God. So they take him. They got volunteers. Like there were more volunteers. There were 3,000 volunteers. Okay, working different aspects of this thing, as opposed to 2,400 who were in the race. So it was more volunteers. There was more than one volunteer for every participant. So medical tent, of course, they're trained to follow the rules. Okay, so they're treating him for blisters on his feet, and they're following the rules, and they treat him properly for the blisters on his feet. But they also have to go through the whole line of questioning you get every time you go to a doctor for the first time. Fill out the right. So, like, one of the first questions was, "Do you feel tired?" He says, "Lady, I just went 140 miles. Yeah, I'm tired."
Oops.
Do your muscles feel sore? Are you achy? Oh.
Thank you, sir. That's good.
So there you go. So what's been happening in Amsterdam while I've been gone? Huh?
Boy. Got a sinkhole.
I heard about that. Rich Iwanski or somebody posted
Yeah,
that. Now, I didn't see that on the way home. We didn't come that way. Now that's an odd place. Pioneer Street and
Pine.
Or Pine Street and
Route 5.
And Route 5.
Yeah.
So it's in the Route 5 lane.
It's right. It's on the western route of it, and I think it just gets to the Route 5 part. It's kind of up that little hill. We got that little grade that comes down there. Yeah.
So it's like in the ramp.
Yeah. I don't know.
What could have caused that? Left over from a flood last year, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be, because that ran right through there.
Yeah. So they had to go and hire out to have people come in and fix it, because the city departments are all busy doing their things. They're right here in Northampton, and they're working on a bunch of other streets in their program.
How big was this hole?
20 foot across.
How deep?
To the bottom. I didn't see a measurement on there, but it was it's one of those things that happen all over. They showed one on TV last week. His house was down south. It just had a sinkhole, and the whole house just kind of disappeared.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, you're gonna tell what's going to happen here. They got the budget here. We got the county budget they're working on. They had the hearing on the change in county government.
I managed to miss all three of those, even though I'm on the committee.
Yeah. They did vote to create 9 districts as opposed to 8 districts.
I can't wait to find out because we debated that issue for over 2 sessions, and decided on the 8 because the 8 gave you the best opportunity of keeping the city intact, because it just worked out mathematically that way. Now, I don't know what 9 districts does.
I think the city picks up.
See that, and that's what I didn't want to do. And I thought we had resolved that issue, and along the lines that I was thinking.
According to the paper, though, that and Mike Chair, when he was on the radio, that wasn't a big issue for a lot of the people. They were just more concerned about having the 9s. They've always got a tie. The tie being able to be broken by a 5-4 vote. That was a concern.
To me, we debated that, and here's my thought on it. What earthly difference does it make? So we resolved it in this way: the executive can break the tie. So what? That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Or if you don't do that, if you say the executive can't break the tie, you still need a majority to pass. So what difference does it make? It makes no difference at all. I think that's an argument about absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
But other than that, people seem to be pretty positive for it. So we'll see how that goes.
I also didn't like the idea. While I was gone, they decided to make the county treasurer an appointed position.
Yes.
I used to be in favor of that until when I was young and stupid. And in fact, had voted for that when I was on my first charter commission. We put it on the ballot. We actually put that on the ballot back in 1978, 79. 78. And it went down to defeat overwhelmingly. People do not like the idea of having elected positions taken away from them. Now you can define the duties of the treasurer, the
Qualification.
If you limit the treasurer's duties to that which is contained in county law, and some of these other things that the treasurer has assumed, you give to somebody else. That's okay. I got no problem with that. And I recognize that these things are getting to be really technical. But the treasurer doesn't have to know everything. The treasurer has to be able to hire somebody who knows how to do everything. And I think that's where the big faults lie, frankly.
Sometimes I hire the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's.
I mean, even in Amsterdam's heyday, the city charter recognized that you elect the mayor to be the chief executive, but he appoints a city administrator who knows what he's doing to handle the day-to-day stuff.
Well,
the mayor sets the policy, the administrator administrates.
Carries it out. And it's who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with competent, qualified people, you have a chance to be successful. You make appointments which are purely political. Doesn't always happen that way.
That's right.
That's right. Look at the Obama administration. Well, let's not look at that. That's pretty positive so far.
So I was in, let's see, what time of day was it? And I'm trying to think where we were yet, because we kept crossing time zones. Montana
10:30 Eastern time.
Montana was in a different time zone. So shortly after 10 Eastern time, it was 7 a.m. and I'm on my little mini laptop, just waiting for something to happen. And of course,
it did.
When the initial results come out, nobody knows what it is. The first results were all over the lot. With people trying to explain what had just happened, and nobody knew because it's a 200-page decision. And so after a while, I said, I'm just going down to breakfast. When I come back, maybe they'll have sorted some of this out. So anyway, it was. It's one of these things that's going to take a few days to digest. Here's some of the things I'm taking away from it after thinking about it. Of course, we're talking about the Obamacare decision, for those of you watching this in the future, which ended up being a 5-4 decision of the Supreme Court of the United States. As far as I can tell, I think I know the answer to this question. Let me see what you think. How many of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court voted to say that the Commerce Clause does not allow the federal government to force people to enter into commerce?
4.
Yeah, the answer is 9. All 9 said that, which I think is the most significant thing that comes out of this. One of the first things that's said in the decision, in Roberts' decision, which was joined by the other 4 by the 4 liberal members of the court, was that the federal government does not have the power under the Commerce Clause to coerce people into purchasing insurance or broccoli or anything else. That there is a limit to the Commerce Clause powers of the federal government, and that is the first limitation that's been put on the Commerce Clause in over 70 years, I think.
But they did determine that you can tax, and since this is
and what did Thomas Jefferson say?
power to tax is the power to destroy.
That's right. Okay. Here's some of the stuff. Interestingly, I came across this just before you got here, because I really, being on the road, I didn't have a chance to see what the commentators are saying. This is somebody named Kate Hicks, that writing in townhall.com, and she came to a lot of the conclusions that I did. Now, given that the other four were ready to throw out the whole thing, needless to say, everyone on my side is annoyed with Roberts for doing what he did. But there is some good stuff in here in Roberts' decision, some of which I just mentioned. I love this quote, and this is Roberts is a real judicial restraint kind of guy. This is where he's coming from. He, in his whole history on the bench, he goes out of his way not to decide more than needs to be decided in the case that's before him. And there is a legitimate precedent for interpreting constitutional law, that if there are two ways of looking at a case, and one way it's unconstitutional, you must interpret the law in such a way, if possible, that makes it constitutional, which is how they got to the tax issue. He said absolutely not on the commerce issue. Anyway, that's where he comes from. So that's how he got where he is. He's wrong, but it's a legitimate tendency. In other words, against legislating from the bench and all the things we don't like. Anyway, this is a great quote. Members of this court are vested with the authority to interpret the law. We possess neither the expertise nor the prerogative to make policy judgments. Those decisions are entrusted to our nation's elected leaders, who can be thrown out of office if the people disagree with them. It is not our job to protect the people from the consequences of their political choices. And that one is going to be carved in stone someday, that line. It is not our job to protect the people from the consequences of their political choices.
So, is he trying to say that this is a poison pill for the president? Because now, since we agree that it is a tax, and he says a tax, that's what it is, and people can judge you based upon the fact you are taxing them.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times did I see posted on the internet yesterday the quote after quote from the president and his minions all saying, no, this is not a tax. We are not a tax. I would never tax the middle class. And it turns out to be like one of the biggest taxes in American history.
Absolutely.
If not the biggest.
The biggest raise, yeah.
Yeah. There are some other consequences that are more arcane floating out there. Because it is now a tax, I'm told, and I don't know this for sure, but it's floating out there, that the rules of the Senate provide for it only takes 51 votes to repeal the tax. Not the 60 to overcome a filibuster. Yeah.
Oh.
Now
you've called it
the senatorial elections become really important. Yeah. Yeah.
They could have handed him a defeat.
So, I mean, those are the consequences of what happened here yesterday. It has nothing to do with... And here's what he says. Here's what he says about the Commerce Clause, which is joined by the other four, and joined in spades by the four dissenters. Don't mind if I put my feet up here and relax a little bit. I'm a little tired after being cramped on airline after airline. Alaska Airlines, by the way, we flew from Spokane to Seattle.
Yeah.
Little dinky plane. But it was the most entertaining and most hospitable plane we were on the whole trip, and we were on quite a number of them. for one thing, it's almost unheard of these days that a domestic airline would offer you free alcoholic beverages, but they had wine and the wine and beer of the month, stuff that's produced actually in their area of service in the Northwest. So they had some microbrew that I would have loved to have tried if I wasn't gluten-free these days. And he says, and for wine we have red. That's it.
Right.
Actually, it turned out to be a 2008 Merlot, but that's all they had. They just you have a choice of red. How did I get to that? Ask Alaska Airlines. Commerce? I don't know how I got to this. Anyway, the Commerce Clause. We're talking about all 9, really. But this is what the majority decision says. Allowing Congress to justify federal regulation by pointing to the effect of inaction on commerce would bring countless decisions an individual could potentially make within the scope of federal regulation, and under the government's theory, empower Congress to make those decisions for him. Construing the Commerce Clause to permit Congress to regulate individuals precisely because they are doing nothing would open a new and potentially vast domain to congressional authority.
That's the Mickey Broccoli Clause.
Yeah, the Broccoli Clause, and they shoot it down. It limits its scope significantly by accepting the distinction between activity and inactivity. And this Kate Hicks says, in so doing, he created a concrete definition of federal power that will influence the way Congress makes laws in the future and the way the court interprets future Commerce Clause cases. Here's the quote. People, for reasons of their own, often fail to do things that would be good for them or good for society. Those failures, joined with the similar failures of others, can readily have a substantial effect on interstate commerce. Under the government's logic, that authorizes Congress to use its commerce power to compel citizens to act as the government would have them act. The government's theory would erode those limits on the Commerce Clause, permitting Congress to reach beyond the natural extent of its authority, everywhere extending the sphere of its activity and drawing all power into its impetuous vortex, unquote, quoting from the Federalist number 48 at page 309, paragraph 9, parentheses, J. Madison, close parentheses. Congress already enjoys vast power to regulate much of what we do. Accepting the government's theory would give Congress the same license to regulate what we do not do, fundamentally changing the relation between the citizen and the federal government. So, I mean, that's good, strong language, and they're all in agreement on it. All nine are in agreement on this, which makes, I mean, I don't know what Roberts is thinking, but a decision where all 9 say that goes way beyond the immediate issue of Obamacare. Far more significant.
But doesn't that then broaden the ability of the government to tax in other ways through the same vehicle?
Yeah, but it's a lot harder for elected officials to jump up and say, "Hey, I'm taxing you." They can't, because they're all out there on all sides of the spectrum saying, no, we don't want the middle class to be taxed. We don't want the middle class to be taxed. We don't want the middle class to be taxed. All right. How are they going to go in and say, by the way, we're raising the taxes by an order of magnitude that's out of this world? Right.
We're creating a fine for you not doing something.
Yeah. Well, they can. I guess we go back to It is not our job to protect the people from the consequences of their political choices.
So you have to make better choices on who you
Better
are.
choices on who they are and how they plan on taxing you at every level of government. Now, you want to get rid of this stuff? You want to go back to a reasonable view of government, the limitations of government? Then you have to not vote for Paul Tonko, not vote for Kirsten Gillibrand, not vote for any of these people who do this just as a matter of course. You know, it's their philosophy to do it. Now, I think they really had to stand on its head to find that this was a tax when everybody was saying it wasn't a tax. And on top of that, one of the preliminary questions was, if it's a tax, is this case even ripe yet? Because there's a provision of the law that says it can't be challenged until someone is actually affected by the tax, if it's a tax. A tax cannot be. So the preliminary question was answered for the purpose of the jurisdiction of this case.
Have you been taxed yet?
It's not a tax.
Because
So we'll decide it. It's not a tax. So we'll decide it. And we decided on the basis of the fact that it is a tax. Now I gotta tell you, I haven't figured that part out yet. How they get from point A to point B.
it's a road less traveled.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't. So far, it doesn't make much sense to me. That part of it. Now, the other thing, which has kind of been ignored, is the Medicaid coercion section of this decision, which was day 3 of the arguments.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is there a point where the government's use of the coercive power of we'll give you this program or we'll take it away, if you can accept it, or but if you don't accept it, we're going to take away this, that, and another thing, whether that coercion power is violative of the 10th Amendment and the basic system of federalism that we have. And the court here said, yeah, there is the limit here, and this is it. They said it's all right and the federal government is offering money to expand the Medicaid program. Okay? And the states may accept that or reject it, or parts of it. And it's okay for the federal government to say, well, look, we're not going to give you any money unless you take all of it instead of just part of it, of the new stuff that's being offered. What they said you can't do is say you have to accept all of this or we eliminate the Medicaid program in your state, period, which is what the law had tried to do. So that puts a substantial limit on this stuff. Now, you know how I am about this. I wonder what the federal government is doing involved in any of this stuff anyway. It just doesn't seem proper function of the federal government. And
you can see, because the state has to create a supermarket for people who don't have insurance, in which they can go into and shop and get something. What's going to happen when companies who offer health plans decide, you know what, this health plan is just too rich for us? We're just going to say, you guys can go out and buy your own from the state, which the fear is going to be substantially less than providing the benefits that many programs offer.
Yeah,
and contractually, because for instance, the school district has a plan that is, really good. It's rich. It's got lots of things in it. Are they going to be able to then say, you can just take over the state office, we're not going to offer it anymore?
Sure.
Because why should we offer more if we can? We can offer least?
It's already happening everywhere. The old saw that you're going to be able to keep your current insurance policy. We're just expanding it for everybody else. Well, that's nonsense, because your current insurance policy isn't going to exist because the companies are not accepting the terms under which the baggage that's being laid on them with this. So, and if ever there was a field where one size didn't fit all, it's health insurance. It all depends on your own financial situation, whether your own health situation, your own history, or how big your family is. All kinds of factors enter into it. Well, do I want to get full, complete, and absolute coverage? Well, that's going to cost you a lot more. If you're going to say, yeah, I'll take it with a $100 deductible or $500 deductible or $1,000 deductible. Well, those are legitimate things that each person should look at based on their own situation.
Yes.
Yeah, will I be able to afford a $1,000 deductible? Yeah, well then maybe it's better off that I take the $1,000 deductible policy, which will protect me against a catastrophe, but not bankrupt me in financing it along the way.
They're talking about these small companies offering health plans, which they're going to be required to do, or face a fine.
Oh, right.
On there, and
let alone the whole free exercise of religion aspect of it.
And then they say, these small companies will get some sort of subsidy to help pay for these things. Well, golly gee whiz, how large bureaucracy are you going to create to keep track of these thousands of
millions
of small businesses, and what's going to happen to it? I mean, it's right now you got your federal government in Washington D.C. They're going to be taking over the states of Virginia, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, just for their employees to handle all the red tape, the law of unintended consequences, or maybe this is intended, because nobody's going to fight the government if everybody is employed by the government and being taken care of by the government. That
it's nuts.
That's being polite.
How's that?
It is. It's absolutely nuts. Every time you turn around, they're no longer putting their hand in your pocket. They're putting their hand in your pants.
So that's right. I think you used that on the last show, though.
Okay.
Anyway,
I'll a new one for next time.
Okay. The unintended consequence here, of course, is that this decision has fired up the base. Romney got $4 million in contributions yesterday afternoon. Individuals, just say this is it, and he's coming down at just the right tone at just the right time to take advantage of this, because this stuff really annoys people. It's a basic taking away of their liberty and people have begun to realize that's what's happening here. Or not the people who, there's a 40% of this country who don't care that their liberty gets taken away. It depends on which liberty it is, of course.
That's right. How much you're being given to abdicate your right to have that liberty.
So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So the House of Representatives certainly is, they may actually, they do hold the purse strings. They can just say, no, we're not going to pay for this. Period. They've already voted to repeal it. You only got to change a couple of votes in the Senate.
Yeah.
Frankly, the Democrats don't even have a majority now. They've got two independents that vote with them, and of course one of them's a socialist, so you can count on him. But boy, it's not going to take much of a turnover and a Republican president to just undo this whole thing. So it's if you like to look at it from a political point of view, it's the best of all worlds for the Republicans when you think about it. Because you're getting people, Supposedly, okay, but 5-4 decision. We get what we wanted, and then everybody goes home. They don't get riled up. They don't get motivated to go to the polls. Now they see there's no other way to get around it. I understand our really classy president tweeted yesterday, still a BFD.
Unbelievable. They showed him coming up to the podium, and he had.
I couldn't watch that.
He
couldn't and wouldn't.
Came strutting up, and you just want to take and hit him up one side of the head and the other. He had that egotistical, I did it because I could do it and I've done it look. And
and the constitutional lawyer was wrong on the constitutional law professor was wrong on every single proclamation he had made about how the Constitution would treat this.
Well, it just goes to show.
By the way, are you watching the time? Because I'm not. I know you've got a problem.
There's only two things certain in life: death and taxes, and this is certainly one of them, isn't it? What kind of victory is this called, Bob?
Pyrrhic.
Pyrrhic.
Pyrrhic, named after General Pyrrhus.
Yes, and that occurs when you win, but in the end,
but the consequences of your win are not too good.
Yeah, and a little bit of luck. This is what it's going to be. But what kind of damage is going to be done in the interim with this? How many man hours is going to go into?
Oh my God! What a waste of time and money.
And it's our money.
And it's our money. It's our money.
Absolutely, it is. It's too bad. It's too bad because he had a chance to do something and do it right, and he didn't. He took the worst of all roads, and he's still leading us down that road.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. We only got a few more months. Time's fun when you're having flies, and it's getting there.
Oh, I see Wendy Long won the Republican primary while I was away. Quite handily.
On a very light vote.
Boy, was it a light vote, yeah.
Yeah, but the right one got in, and we'll see if she can fight the Schumer machine.
She's very dynamic. I just hope people lay some money. Did you know that Jill Brandt is now talking about running for president in 4 years?
President of what?
Of the United States. Now come on.
It's good to have
she isn't even the second most likely candidate from New York. Right?
No, she is not.
She's not even the third if you throw in the Hillary Clinton.
People all have dreams. If you're gonna dream big.
Yeah. I mean, what has she done that would make her a national figure? I mean, she's the most left-wing member of the Senate, vote-wise.
Well, the only person more left-wing in government than her is him. You know? And obviously he's got some people in his base, so it's not that.
Have you been following, all these stories from the new biography of Obama that's out there that just establishes that one story after another in his own autobiography is totally made up. Totally made up.
But that doesn't matter. It's the story.
It's a story. It's a great story.
It's a story.
Yeah.
Right. Fiction, non-fiction, biographical, autobiographical. It's a story. And people here in the United States like a good story. There was the one about his grandfather being held prisoner by the colonial authorities and beaten and in jail for 6 months and stuff like that. This guy went out and interviewed people who knew the guy. He said, that never happened. We wouldn't have noticed if he had disappeared. But you see, that test balloon has already been sent up. when the woman from Massachusetts claimed to be a Native American.
Pocahontas.
Yeah, Pocahontas. Once that went up, and people said, all right, fine, big deal. His balloon just gets bigger. It doesn't matter. People don't handle it. In fact, there was a Supreme Court case yesterday that came down whereby all these gentlemen
of the stolen valor.
Of the stolen valor. You know what? That's okay, because it's freedom of speech. You can say that. You don't have to be truthful. You can say what you want, that's our right, and then it's up to people to judge if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So there you go. We've created, much as Stalin created stories and views in the Soviet Union, we're able to do that here.
Republican rank and file tend, I'm making some broad generalizations here, but I think they're accurate. Tend to turn immediately on a phony in their own party. There was the fellow, exactly that case. I think I remember his name, but if I've got the wrong guy, I don't want to mention his name because I could be wrong. But he was prominent in the Republican Party in the state of New York, and used to talk about his service in Vietnam, and it turned out he was never in Vietnam. And once that came out, this guy was gone. I mean, that's it. You've never heard from him again. The Democrats says, we expect them to make stuff up. We don't care. I mean, John Kerry's phony.
But that's
war hero crap.
But that all these things, all these loose ends out there, tie together, and these things tied together weave the fabric of the Democratic Party, and those fabrics can be woven however and present whatever picture you choose it to present. Facts don't play into it. When you hear the president talking about how much this piece of legislation is going to cost, all right, I was off by $500 billion. Yeah, we didn't see that coming, but don't worry about it. It's okay. That's acceptable.
Meanwhile, yet another green industry is filing for bankruptcy that received I don't know how many hundreds of millions from the federal government. You can't even keep up with this stuff.
No, they overload you, and before you just get numb to it. It's a course of doing business as.
But I got to tell you, I don't get the impression that the general public is any less riled up than they were 2 years ago when they turned the Congress over.
The riled upness shall be apparent on Election Day, and I think this is going to be a heavy election.
I do too.
And it's going to hinge on a couple little things, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm great feared what could happen for.
Obama's had a rough couple of weeks gone by here, and
his attorney general gets.
I was just about to bring that up. We got the Eric Holder thing. NBC never had mentioned the story of Fast and Furious. Okay, the gun running to Mexico. They had never done a single story on it. So all of a sudden, when the impeachment story comes out, they have to cover it when you're not impeachment, but the contempt of the Attorney General of the United States. They have to cover it, and all of a sudden they have to kind of explain why they haven't told any of their listeners why they've never mentioned this story once. And they cover it by. This is most people think this is an election year ploy by the Republicans. So that's all they were talking about. I mean, they might just as well put Democratic National Committee instead DNC instead of NBC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're going to be that blatant. And it's. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched the network news in the last 5 years, maybe twice. I mean, it's just got to. You're not getting any news off of it. It's all.
No.
I caught a CBS broadcast. It was just before the Wisconsin recall vote, and so they had to do, obviously, this is the big political news of the week, is the Wisconsin recall vote. And the whole story was about, well, you know, the big story is all this money coming from out of state to support Walker. Oh, yeah. Where'd all the money come from that raised all the money to get the petition drive done and the zillions of commercials to even have a recall election?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Where did all the money come from? The bus and all the
bus and all the people to vote.
Yeah.
You know,
Michigan is almost Wisconsin. We can vote. They're our neighbor.
well, that's it. I mean, the one Senate seat that was lost, I guess, because I haven't seen any follow-up on that election, was the one on the border, and they were just bringing busloads of union people over to register, because you can register to vote on the day of the election there. That's what they do in the New Hampshire primary routinely. Busloads. The unions send busloads of people up there to vote on primary day in New Hampshire from all over the Northeast.
Somebody else's primary.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't get it.
And it's all legal because that's what they allow it that way. That's absolute nonsense. No, you don't register to vote on election day. You actually live in a place. Yeah. And who's going to challenge it? Because they're all doing it. And voting in another party's primary, you know.
That's right.
You know, I would have liked to vote for Wendy Long this week, but you know, I chose to move out of the Republican Party into another party. I don't feel like I have a right to go in and decide who the Republican Party is going to choose to be their candidate. I'm hoping it's the one I want.
Right.
The one who's actually the nominee of my party, the Conservative Party, but I don't feel that I have any right whatsoever to make that decision for them.
No. About that time.
It's about that time. Okay, so we got a short show this week, which would be for the benefit of those of you who don't like long shows. By the way, we got Pete Rose back. We got more than double the number of our usual.
He was great.
Wasn't he great?
I learned a lot about the funeral business talking to him.
I learned a lot of stuff.
You know.
Yeah.
And don't forget this Wednesday.
I don't know. What about this Wednesday?
4th of July.
It is.
Get out and celebrate and remember why we have the 4th of July. Because they don't have a 4th of July in England.
No, they don't.
They go right from
They only have the 3rd to the 5th.
Yeah. But go out and remember why we have the 4th.
I read that on the internet. Lincoln said it. Yeah.
Oh, did you see that? All the things that Lincoln never said that are attributed to Lincoln? Yeah. But,
that's
4th of July. Yeah, there's a lot of parades coming up on the 4th, and get out, and regardless of what your political affiliation is.
All right. Next week I'll be more relaxed. Probably have a shirt and tie on, and maybe if it's still hot, we'll go somewhere air conditioned, or we'll do it up poolside. I don't know. We could do that. I didn't have time to set it up today. I just got back. Okay, and Jim will be back once we find him, and that's it. We'll be back again next week with more of The Show with No Name.